Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Sorry we're a little late tonight. Whoops, I just got a message from Vaisheshika Prabhu with a big question mark on it. Oh, what to do? One second. What is that called? My air bridge. Okay, sorry about that. Well, let's get right into it. We're late. Srimad Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram by Sanatan Goswami. It's part of Sri Krishna Lila Stava, another book that Sanatan Goswami wrote, and it comes in texts 412 to 416. It's a beautiful glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam, the nicest I've ever seen or heard. And because the Brhad Bhagavatamrta is based on the Bhagavatam, we'll continue to do this daily, all the way through our reading of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. And it goes like this: Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drik Prada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwandoditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshak Shadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin, Madguno Man Mahadana, Mannishtadaka Mad Bhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhuta dayin atini chochata kada hanamun chagadachin mam premna rit kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, we've reached the 7th chapter and last chapter of the first part of Brhad Bhagavatamrta. And Narada Muni has inadvertently caused an emotional experience in Dwarka in which Krishna and Balaram in ecstatic separation from Vrindavan, from Braja and the Brajavasis, fainted in ecstasy. And Lord Brahma came there, and after becoming almost bewildered himself, figured out what to do, and he had Garuda take Krishna and Balaram to New Vrindavan. It's a place constructed by the architect Vishwakarma, architect of the demigods, and it is an exact replica of Vrindavan. He's a demigod architect, so he has talents that you can't imagine. And he made a duplicate. The only thing he couldn't do was make the figurines of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj and Radharani and the gopis and the cows and everything alive. That was beyond his creative capacity. So anyway, now Krishna has woken up in New Vrindavan, and because he's still kind of in a semi-internal state, he's thinking that he's in Vrindavan, and he's talking to the various, they're actually deities, murtis, of all the personalities there that he's used to being with in Vrindavan. So he's thinking that his time in Dwarka was just a dream, and now he's back in Vrindavan. And just now, he's left Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, and he's not noticing that everybody's just standing still because he's in ecstasy himself, and he's accustomed to seeing his devotees sometimes be stunned in ecstasy. This is a brilliant arrangement by Lord Brahma. So we're starting out with text 43. And Krishna has left Nanda and Yashoda in New Vrindavan, and he's going towards where Balaram had gone to play with the cows and the cowherd boys. And he's come in contact with Radharani and Chandravali and their groups of gopis. Text 43. I left you and went elsewhere. In that distant place, I married many princesses who had been preparing to end their lives, and I fathered sons, grandsons, and great-grandsons. Commentary. Krishna rescued the 16,000 princesses kidnapped by Bhaumasura, but they could not simply thank Krishna and return to their families, since they had already stayed in a man's house. No respectable princes would ever marry them. Only Krishna could save them from a shame they could otherwise end only by suicide, and only he could marry them all. 44. Anyway, right now, I have to go to the forest. This is Krishna speaking to the gopis. Tonight at dusk, however, O bestower of satisfaction, you will enjoy with me. Text 45. Sri Pariksha continued, having said this, Krishna threw a handful of flowers to Sri Radha, looked all around, and then embraced and kissed her. He then went ahead to meet the cows and cowherd boys. Text 46. As Devaki saw for the first time how wonderfully and all attractively Krishna was dressed for Braj, and how he was playing his flute, milk started flowing from her breasts in great love, even though she was no longer young. Commentary. Krishna has special ecstatic feelings for his devotees, as described in the previous several verses. This is the ultimate greatness of God. Reciprocally, Krishna's devotees have incomparable affection for him, which they each show in their own individual ways. Text 47. Rukmini, Jambavati, and other queens bewildered by an intensity of love they had never felt before, lost their composure, fainted, and fell to the ground. Commentary. Krishna's queens were all noble ladies, careful to behave seriously in public, but the exceptional attraction they at this moment felt for Krishna defeated their gravity. They were accustomed to seeing Krishna dressed as a prince, not a cowherd. Now they could no longer control their emotions, and finally could not even retain their outward consciousness. Text 48. Even old Padmavati became intoxicated. Driven by lust, she as well as Satyabhama acted out embracing and kissing Krishna again and again, and ran after him, arms extended, to try to catch him. Text 49. Kalindi, the daughter of the sun god, had seen Krishna like this before. Being very intelligent, she somehow calmed herself down. She and Uddhava grabbed Satyabhama and Padmavati and dragged them back to their hiding places. Commentary. Queen Kalindi in Dwarka and the river Yamuna in Vrindavan are one and the same person. Thus, she alone among the Dwarka queens had known Krishna during his cowherding days. This is at least the external reason why Kalindi in this situation was able to stay sober. But the fact is that she also had to struggle to remain calm, just to help Brahma carry out his plan for dispelling Krishna's bewilderment. Kalindi caught hold of Satyabhama, and Uddhava caught Padmavati. Text 50. Meanwhile, Lord Govinda went ahead, tending his cows. When he saw the ocean before him, he thought it was the Yamuna, and with delight he called his friends to come play in the river. Commentary. The scene now focuses again on Krishna. The Arabian Sea rings Dwarka like a fortress moat, and its dark blue color made Krishna think it was the river Yamuna. Text 51. My dear friends, where have you gone? O Sridama, Subal, Arjuna, happily come here quickly. 52. We can let our cows drink water from this river Yamuna, and we can play as much as we want, swimming in her gently flowing, clear, cool water. Text 53. Thus, Lord Achyuta went on further with the cows and neared the sea, where mighty roaring waves came one after another. 54. When Krishna looked around the sea coast, he noticed his own great city visible in the distance. Krishna was surprised and exclaimed, "What is this? Where am I? Who am I?" Commentary. Coming out of the forest and beholding more clearly the vast water before him, Krishna saw the crashing waves, and to the side at a distance a huge city. Addressing no one in particular, Krishna reacted spontaneously with these questions. What is this ocean in front of me? Is there such an ocean in Brajabhumi? Or am I somewhere else? But how can the son of Nanda Maharaj be somewhere else? Or am I someone else? If I am supposed to be a great prince, then why am I so unsuitably dressed? 55. Astonished, he spoke these words again and again as he gazed at the vast ocean and the city. Then Lord Balarama told him something. Commentary. Krishna was hesitant to decide whether what he was seeing was real or not. His elder brother had to settle the question for him. Text 56. Sri Baladev said, "O my master, Lord of Vaikuntha, please consider who you are. You were asked by the demigods to descend to remove the burden of the earth." Text 57. "Now please destroy the wicked and protect everyone else. Your cousin, Dharmaraj, King Yudhishthir, has undertaken a sacrifice. Please see to getting it performed." Commentary. Balarama here requests Krishna to think of himself as the Lord of Vaikuntha and of Balarama as his aide, Ananta Shesha. Even though Krishna is indeed the son of Nanda Maharaj, he should now carry out the mission for which he and Balaram have descended from Vaikuntha. Of course, they had actually descended from Goloka Vrindavan. But Goloka and Vaikuntha are in many respects non-different. When Krishna descends to this world, he brings within himself all of his personal expansions, including the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, when he comes from Goloka, he is simultaneously coming from Vaikuntha. Krishna's main purpose for descending is to distribute the special kind of pure love found only at his own lotus feet by playing his pastimes in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Dwarka is not the suitable place for this purpose. But if Krishna turns his mind to this main objective, Balarama thinks, he is likely to become completely unsettled again. Therefore, Balarama calls Krishna Vaikunteshwar instead of Golokeshwar, and tactfully points out that Krishna's current task is to relieve the earth of its burden by destroying evildoers and protecting law-abiding citizens. Most immediately, Yudhishthira needs Krishna's support for the Rajasuya Yajna. After achieving these secondary aims, Balaram implies, Krishna will be free to absorb himself in his first aim without impediments. Text 58. You have established Yudhishthira as emperor, but he is intimidated by Shalva's younger brother and by other exceedingly powerful villains. Purport. Commentary. Yudhishthira will not dare face the challenge of staging the Rajasuya sacrifice unless Krishna encourages him, and several opponents like King Anushalva first need to be removed. 59. Please therefore go to Yudhishthira, and with the help of the Yadus, try to kill his enemies who are persecuting your devotees out of hatred for you. Commentary. These words are aimed at inducing Krishna to put aside the exalted sweet taste of intimate love and assume instead the contrary mood of militant anger. To stir up Krishna's fury, Balarama suggests here that without the help of the Yadus, Krishna might be unfit to kill these enemies. These enemies are Krishna's, since Yudhishthira does not consider anyone an enemy. Text 60. Sri Parikshit said, Balarama spoke these words to change his younger brother's ecstatic mood and bring him back to normal. Indeed, upon hearing what Balaram said, Krishna did change his mood. Commentary. Before hearing these words, Krishna was swimming in the prema ras of the most confidential loving dealings, but now he was in a heroic mood. Thus, in the next verse, Parikshit will refer to him as Bhagavan. The personality of Godhead grew angry and said, "Brother, who are those useless creatures? Shalva's younger brother and those like him. I will go by myself and kill them at once." 62. Trust these words of mine as true. They give my firm promise. In this way, the circumstances of the moment made Lord Krishna forget his confusion. Commentary. Krishna's bewilderment was in fact his complete rapture in the highest prema rasa. But for now, he had to refrain from those ecstasies. Text 63. Looking around again, Krishna remembered that he was the master of Sri Dwarka, the divine king of the Yadavas. He remembered he had been sleeping inside the palace. Then he saw the flute in his hand, and himself and his older brother dressed like forest dwellers. 65. Krishna perceived he had gone out of the city to tend cows, and this filled him with surprise and doubt. He laughed as he pondered it. Commentary. Now aware of Krishna, now aware of himself as the Prince of Dwarka, Krishna had to reckon with the obvious facts that he and Balaram were dressed like cowherd boys and had been tending cows along the shore of the ocean. He wondered why they were acting like this and whether these things were actually happening or were some sort of illusion. He laughed at his own inability to figure this out and at his long lapse from normal consciousness. Text 66. His brother, Balaram, understood what Krishna was thinking. Smiling, Balarama explained that this was all Brahma's arrangement and told Krishna the reasons why it had been done. Commentary. Having ascertained from Krishna's laughter that Krishna had finally calmed down, Balarama was able to explain to him how Brahma had planned this scheme to bring him back to normal, and how Garuda and the others had carried out the plan. Text 67. Krishna then looked at his brother's face and smiled, as if embarrassed. And since Krishna's body was covered with dust, Balaram wiped him clean and bathed him in the sea. Commentary. As indicated by the word Eva, Krishna had no reason to be embarrassed. His behavior all along had been totally praiseworthy. In his own words to Uddhava, Jagupsa Hrir Akarmasu, real modesty means being disgusted with improper acts. Bhagavatam 10:11-19:40. If one has indulged in illicit acts, one should feel shame and condemn one's own wrong behavior. But Krishna felt no shame. He simply looked at Balaram and smiled. Balaram took care to wipe the dust off Krishna. Dust more likely picked up while Krishna was herding the cows in the manufactured Vrindavan, or else earlier, while Krishna was rolling around inside the palace in his uncontrollable ecstasy. Text 68. At that moment, Garuda arrived. Because he understood the Lord's moods perfectly well, Krishna mounted him and returned unseen to his palace. Text 69. The all-knowing Uddhava informed Devaki, Rukmini, and the others what was happening. He brought all the queens back to the palace, to Lord Krishna's side. Commentary. Uddhava arranged for the gossip monger Padmavati to attend to some business elsewhere, because she would be out of place in the confidential discussions about to begin. Text 70. Mother Devaki greeted her son with blessings. Well aware of what time it was, she quickly went to prepare his meal. Commentary. Devaki's excusing herself from the company of Krishna's queens left Krishna at liberty to discuss with them frankly the matter which is the essential message of this chapter, the supreme devotion of the young gopis of Braja. Krishna felt too much filial reverence for his mother. Krishna felt too much filial reverence for his mother to talk about this openly in her presence. She knew that it was time to cook for Krishna, and on a deeper level, she also understood that now she ought to take her leave. Text 71. The beloved queens of the Lord stayed hidden behind objects such as columns, not approaching him. But Satyabhama had not come there with the others, so Krishna asked about her from Uddhava. The Lord's servant Uddhava replied, "When you took your glorious excursion to Vrindavan, which is embraced by Raivati hill, your special mood might have bewildered the unintelligent, but your queens were able to perceive it. They therefore hid themselves, watching from a distance. Then the spiteful, weak-minded Padmavati addressed them." Commentary. Uddhava is sometimes called Haridas. Shukadev Goswami therefore says, seeing the rivers, forests, mountains, valleys, and flowering trees of Braja, Haridas, Uddhava, enjoyed inspiring the inhabitants of Vrindavan by reminding them of Lord Krishna. Bhagavatam 10:47, 56. Text 74, 75. O Devaki, this is Padmavati now speaking. O Devaki, devoid of pious credits, O unfortunate Rukmini, wretched Satyabhama, Jambavati, and you other miserable women, look here. From now on, you should give up your pride and undergo the greatest penances to become servants of these Abhira nomad women. Oh God, she's so good. Commentary. The queens of Dwarka may have won Krishna's hand in marriage, but they should not think they have a stronger hold on his heart than the Braja Gopis. The Abhiras are a degraded class of nomads, whereas the cowherds of Nanda are respectable, twice-born Vaishyas. But because Nanda's community is engaged in the same cowherding business as the outcast nomads, and also just out of spite, Padmavati calls Nanda's Gopas Abhiras. Shukadev Goswami mentions the Abhira tribe in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 2:4-18. Kiratas, Hunas, Andhras, Pulindas, Pukasas, Abhiras, Kankas, Yavanas, members of the Kasha races, and even others addicted to sinful acts, can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. For he is the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Text 76 and 77 through 78. Uddhava told Krishna, the wise Devaki shelters you, who shelter the entire world. When she heard those wicked words, she said, Foolish woman, what is unusual here? Sri Vasudeva and I, in our previous lives, underwent austerities to get the Lord as our son. And therefore the Lord, the bestower of all boons, accepted that role. But Nanda and Yashoda prayed to Lord Brahma for pure devotion. Commentary. Sri Krishna surely has special affection for his parents Vasudeva and Devaki, as well as Nanda and Yashoda. But Nanda and Yashoda are more intimately connected with Krishna. Vasudeva and Devaki, in their previous lives as Sutapa and Prishne, strove to attain a parental relationship with God. When they finally achieved the Supreme Lord's audience, after strict austerities for many years, they submitted to him their desire, and the Lord agreed to fulfill it. As the Lord later told Devaki, O sinless Mother Devaki, after 12,000 celestial years, in which you constantly thought of me within the core of your heart with great faith, devotion, and austerity, I was very much satisfied with you. Since I am the best of all bestowers of benediction, I appeared in this same form as Krishna to ask you to take from me the benediction you desired. You then expressed your desire to have a son exactly like me. Bhagavatam 10.3, 37 and 38. Krishna is Vrada Ishvara, the best of those who give benedictions. By granting a single boon, he was able to bless Prishni and Sutapa to become his parents, not only once, but 3 times. But to Nanda and Yashoda, whose love for him was even more pure, Krishna bestowed a greater reward. In the rasa of parental love, they enjoy the topmost perfection of prema bhakti, found only within the realm of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nanda, in the role of the Vasudrona, expressed the unconditional purity of his love when he prayed to Brahma, please permit us to be born on the planet Earth, so that after our appearance, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller and Master of all planets, will also appear and spread devotional service, the ultimate goal of life. Thus, those born in this material world may very easily be delivered from miserable materialistic life by accepting devotional service. Bhagavatam 10.8, 49. Nanda was concerned for the upliftment of the unhappy conditioned souls. He wanted Krishna to exhibit his childhood pastimes so that the world would hear and recite them and regain the taste of love of God. Text 79. By the blessings of that foremost devotee of the Lord, Nanda and Yashoda, along with their whole household, became greater than us. I'll read that again. By the blessings of that foremost devotee of the Lord, Nanda and Yashoda, along with their whole household, became greater than us. Commentary. In Devaki's opinion, Brahma had the power to make Nanda and Yashoda the best parents of the Lord, because Brahma himself was the best of all the Lord's devotees. In the words of Shukadeva Goswami in the 2nd canto of the Bhagavatam 295, Saadi Devo Jagatam Paro Guru, Brahma is the first of gods, the supreme spiritual master of all the worlds. Devaki indicates by her comparison of blessings that the Supreme Lord so greatly empowers devotees engaged in his service, that the benedictions they give can be even more effective than his own. Text 80. Because of their exceptional love, they were allowed to raise the Lord as their child and cherish his many wonderful activities. Therefore, his special attitude toward them is fitting and very much pleasing to me. Commentary. Nanda and Yashoda deserved the best reciprocation from Krishna. Had Krishna not dealt with them in the most intimate way, he would have been guilty of ingratitude. Text 81. Uddhava continued. Then, Rukmini Devi brightly spoke. By hearing her words, all the devotees increased in love for Krishna. Commentary. Hearing praise of devotees greater than oneself, like the praise about to be spoken by Queen Rukmini, does not cause envy or a discouragement for pure Vaishnavas. Rather, it increases their eagerness to please the Lord by their own service. Text 82. Sri Rukmini said, those women gave up everything, their husbands, sons, and all else they had, disregarding their own fortune in this world and the next. Enduring distress, they worshiped the Lord in their own way, enchanting him in the rasa dance and other pastimes. Text 83. We can hope to achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by following many rigorous spiritual practices, and we can meditate upon him only by strict training, strictly training the attention of our hearts. I'll read that again. We can hope to achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by following many rigorous spiritual practices, and we can meditate upon him only by strictly training the attention of our hearts. But those gopis cherished such exceptional love for him that they easily attained the success of the most advanced stages of meditation. Commentary. Other devotees can only hope to follow in the footsteps of the Vrindavan gopis, and by the sincerest endeavors might begin to approach the perfection that for the gopis was their natural birthright. For the most part, devotees can see Krishna only in their hearts, but the gopis serve him directly with all their senses. Indeed, they permanently hold Krishna's attention. As Uddhava told the gopis, in your mood of separation, you have traversed a path on which even great yogis cannot go. You have made the Supreme Person the object of your meditation, though other seekers can focus their attention on him only with great travail. Text 84. It is befitting, therefore, that Krishna loves them more than us, for we are obsessed with our religious duties, social obligations, children, grandchildren, homes, household affairs, and so on. We are but his maidservants, worshipping him with reverence, like fallen conditioned souls. We married wives should not envy his exceptional love for the gopis. Rather, we should always glorify that love, for it proves how very subservient he becomes to his beloved devotees. Commentary. Speaking on behalf of all the queens, Srimati Rukmini contrasted their own mode of serving Krishna with that of the gopis, admits that the servants of the queens is inferior, because the queens consider Krishna their husband, Their exchanges with him are restricted by social rules. The queens are bound by concerns for various worldly and religious duties, whereas the gopis have no concern for anything but satisfying Krishna. Thus the gopis serve Krishna in such indescribably exquisite sports as the rasa dance, whereas the queens can render only the conventional services a faithful wife performs for her respected husband. From the queen's standpoint, only the gopis of Braja possess the purest type of love. Krishna, accordingly, responds to that unique love in unique ways. Sometimes he hides himself outside a corner of a gopi's house and attracts the gopi's attention by making curious sounds. She quickly rises from bed and steals to the door, careful not to awaken family members such as her mother-in-law. And outside she meets Krishna and pleases him with embraces and kisses. Even during the day, Krishna is sometimes busy in a grove selected for a secret meeting on the bank of the Yamuna. While arranging a soft bed from leaves and flowers, he hears the sound of falling leaves, signaling that his beloved has arrived. He turns his face toward the path outside the grove by which a gopi, on the pretext of fetching water from the Yamuna, is coming to fulfill his desires. Sometimes at dusk, several gopis become intoxicated by hearing Krishna calling them with the song of his flute. They run toward him hastily, their garments, hair, and ornaments in disarray. But when they meet him, he tries to turn them back with proud, deceptive words that cast them into despair. After they helplessly beg him to change his mind, he acquiesces, giving up his pretense. And when they realize that he was only joking with them, they become filled with joy, grab hold of the end of his yellow dhoti, and pull him into a nearby secluded grove. In such ways the gopis of Braja enjoy the freedom of worshipping Krishna as their paramour, whereas the queens of Dwarka admit that they are limited to worshipping him according to the principles of religious household life, subject to Vedic injunctions and social customs. Therefore the queens declare, the queen should never envy the gopis, for a subordinate should never envy a superior. Maidservants in a noble household, for example, should not be jealous of the mistress they serve. Rather than envy the Braja gopis, Krishna's wives in Dwarka admire them as perfect exemplars of devotion. Krishna's love for the gopis deliberately shows to everyone the greatest feature of his transcendental personality, his voluntary submission to the control of his dearest devotees. Without daring to state it openly, the queens nourish a hope to become like the gopis. The queens minimize the value of their own devotion, blaming themselves for being attached to mundane religious and social duties, although in truth the queens are free from any such attachment. Even if the queens are attached to their religious and social obligations, that is not a fault, but a virtue that enhances their special love for Krishna. When the queens speak as Rukmini does here, they do so out of natural humility to express their admiration for the rare fortune of the gopis. Jai, Sanatana Goswami ki jai, Gopi Prandana Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna. So I'll stop here. It's after 8 o'clock. Tomorrow we'll find out what other queens thought, such as Satyabhama. All right.
Vaisheshika Prabhu says, Hare Krishna.
Vaisheshika Prabhu, Hare Krishna. I hope you heard that purport. Boy, what a purport. Okay.
Okay, and first is a comment from Brhad Bhagavatamrta.
Hi, Brhad Bhagavatamrta, Hare Krishna.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj,
First off the blocks.
please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Just listening to these pastimes endears my heart to Krishna. Also, I am delighted knowing Krishna is so much more wonderful than I initially understood.
Yes, this is the purpose of this book, and it's the purpose of all the Vedas. This is Bhakti Vedanta. This is the end of Vedanta. The end of knowledge is pure Bhakti. And pure Bhakti has so many varieties, unlimited varieties. And how they nourish Krishna's love and pleasure, as well as the devotees' love for Krishna and their pleasure, and for each other, is the wonder of Krishna's greatness. This is the real greatness of Krishna, as we've heard in a couple of purports. It's not the opulence and the glory and the awe of his personage. These things are there even in Goloka Vrindavan more than anywhere else. But the devotees are in love with him in such a special way that they don't even notice the opulences. So this ultimate humility that the wives of Krishna are expressing toward the gopis, this is something extraordinary. This doesn't happen in any material households. That the wives of Krishna are expressing their appreciation for the gopis and glorifying them for being superior in loving Krishna than they are. That is unheard of. So therefore, this book and all such books, and there's not very many of them, Gopi Puranadana Prabhu explains that in the beginning. We heard it in the very beginning of this book, that there's only certain places in the Vedic literatures in which these topics are discussed. The personal pastimes and interactions, loving exchanges with his devotees in the spiritual world. But still, even though it's very small percentage of the verses that deal with that subject, it is still the most rare and difficult to attain, but at the same time the most fulfilling. Therefore, this is a very, very important, very special pastime, how the Braja mood and Dwarka mood mixed together. This is, as they say, out of this world. Hare Krishna. But this pierces the ignorance of the sahajas, who think that when they want to become gopis, and then they think themselves superior to everyone else. But in fact, the devotees of Krishna who have achieved, or who are eternally, intimately involved with Krishna in loving affairs, they think themselves the lowest, but they're actually the highest. And it's very interesting how the queens praise the gopis. That's in the Lalita Madhava, Rupa Goswami writes how when Krishna left, some of the gopis actually appeared to leave their bodies, and they showed up in Krishna's life in Dwarka as their queens. They're actually, just as Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, actually. This is actually Vasudeva Krishna playing out the role of Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, the original Krishna, in Vrindavan. So that these moods mixed in a way that does not cause conflict. It is the mastery of spiritual drama, perfection of poetic developments. Hare Krishna.
Next is something from Gauranga Gopal.
Gauranga Gopal, Hari Bol.
He said, Hare Krishna Maharaj. It is interesting that Krishna accepted marrying the princesses for them not to live in shame of having stayed in some other man's house. In the case of Lord Ramachandra, if I remember well, he rejected Sita after the rumors of her staying in Ravana's palace spread in Ayodhya. Also, how do we understand that in one hand Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita that he himself follows the rules and regulations and Vedic culture, otherwise people would follow his example and it would cause ruination, but on the other hand he still exceptionally breaks these same rules when Lord Rama would not? Thank you.
Well, Krishna came. See, it's the same person. You have to kind of, that's one of the things that this pastime should bring out in our understanding, that these are the same person. It's not there's a different Krishna. He's the same person. Whenever he appears as an expansion or an incarnation, the Swangsha expansions, the personal expansions of Krishna, are all Krishna. And as we heard, all of the incarnations of Krishna appear with Krishna, inside Krishna, when he comes to the earth as in his original form. And in fact, they're always there inside of him, even in Goloka Vrindavan. So this is a very difficult subject, actually. I'm not qualified to discuss it, actually. But our acharyas talk about how, I'll use this as an example. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and therefore there must be unlimited varieties of things for him to enjoy and persons for him to enjoy. And therefore in Goloka, Radharani expands herself into different moods. Her moods are forms. You know how a person may be, a high court judge or some very elevated position in society, and he will act in one way in that role. You know, everybody stands up when he comes into the room, and before they can't approach him without saying your honor, you know? And he gets a kind of thrill from that, a kind of satisfaction from that. But at the same time, when he goes home and his, wife, tweaks his cheek or kisses him on the cheek, or his children climb on his back and play like he's a horse, he gets more pleasure. Same man, same person. So Krishna's like that, but in an unlimited, infinite way. He can play all roles in all different forms and still be the same person. And he does that in order to fulfill the desires of the devotees and the need of the time. Lord Ramachandra came to show what the perfect human being, how he behaves in the role of the king, the ideal monarch, the ideal man, a representative of God. So he plays that to perfection. So it's not that he neglects Sita or loves her any less or separates her from her forever. They're never separated. But because he needed to fulfill the role of the perfect king by satisfying the citizens. It's so different than what goes on now in human society. It's almost impossible to understand how a person can be like that in the position of a leader, the top leader of a country or a planet. So it's all a drama. It's all a drama. Krishna performing these unbelievable dramas according to time and place in order to satisfy his devotees, in order to teach the world how to act in different roles, just as Lord Chaitanya did. He came and played the role of Radharani, but as a sannyasi, to show us how to be a perfect devotee. So the more you know these things and know more about Krishna in these ways, the more your natural love, which is there already, will come out. And with that, I'm stopping for the night. Sorry, I can't get to all this is such wonderful pastimes, and they bring out such wonderful revelations and questions and everything. I got a little carried away, but I really do have to go now. So those of you I didn't hear their reflections, please forgive me. Shri Brhad Bhagavatamrta ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much. On this day, Ekadashi day, before Varaha appearance day, before Nityananda Trayodasi, day after tomorrow, we hope you are all relishing of these extraordinary pastimes of Krishna, so that your love for him will flourish. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same topic. Hare Krishna.